Thank you, Ms. Sinclair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gail Grandison, and I am the chair of the Youth and Education Committee. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. And try to start my video. Let's see if it works this time. Not sure. I'm not seeing you. You can see me? Okay, great. Great. I was trying to get it on before and it was just giving me. Okay. So welcome. Thank you for being here. I want to ask you to please just go around the room like we usually do, say good evening, and tell us who you are, whether you are a board member or a committee member or just a committee member or just visiting us tonight. So from my right, I see Miss Simon, Pam Simon. Miss Simon?
Yeah, I'm on the bus. This is Pam Simon, and I'm a committee member. Or maybe I didn't send the application in to update it, but that's what I believe I am.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Miss Simon. Ryan Wharton.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ryan Wharton. I'm a committee member.
Thank you, Ryan. Are you a new board member also, Ryan?
I don't
No?
know. I didn't get notified.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I should know the board members because I'm a secretary. Okay. Fred Yampolsky.
Yes, hi. Good evening. My name is Fred Yampolsky. I'm actually one of the new board members.
Yes, I know that name.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And are you joining the education committee, the youth and education also?
Oh yes, I'd love to join.
Okay. Next, let's see. Oh, I see a face. I'm excited when I see Justin Polino.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm here with Literacy Academy Collective, and I'm with Naomi Pena here, who she'll talk about herself too. But I'm here just to present. I'm the community engagement coordinator with Literacy Academy Collective, and I'm just excited to be here, listening in on the committee meeting.
Yes, Justin and his colleagues will be giving us a presentation on some very, very important, very interesting data. I can't wait to hear this.
Thank you.
Going to be very so. Welcome. Edith.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edith Morris. I'm a board member as well as Youth and Education Committee member.
Yes, welcome, Miss Mark. Thank you for being here. Okay, who am I seeing next? Ayana G. Ayana, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know what you just said, but yes, I am. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Chair Grandison. I am a committee member.
Thank you. If it seems like I'm calling you out of order, I'm not. It's just that WebEx is so weird. Naomi Pena.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Naomi Pena. I am the Director of Community and Family Engagement for Literacy Academy Collective. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. Ms. Lovell, Deidre.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Deidre Lavelle, and I am a board and community member.
Thank you, Ms. Lavelle. Mr. Tate?
Good evening, all. George State, committee member.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. Ms. McCain Brown?
Good evening, everyone. Monica McCain Brown, committee member.
Thank you. Gosh. Let's see. Ms. Duncan?
Good evening, everyone. Natasha Duncan, committee member, board member.
Thank you. Ms. Judd?
Oh,
Melissa?
I'm coming. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Hi.
hear you now.
Hi, my name is Melissa Judd, and I'm a board member.
Thank you, Ms. Judd. And you are joining the committee also, or you're just joining us? Because I know I have you like 3 times, so I feel like you are joining us.
I mean, if that's the feeling you have.
Okay.
I mean, if you need support, I told you, I'm let me know.
I know. I listen. That's been sitting in the back of my head. I haven't forgotten.
Okay.
I don't forget things like that. Miss Saunders.
Good night, everyone. I'm sorry I'm a bit late. I had some trouble with my WebEx this evening.
We all
glad-
did. Yeah. Thank you for being here, Miss Saunders. I don't know how many times I have to say I do not like WebEx until the city changes it. Ruth Ann Goodrich. Ruth
Good
Ann.
evening. I'm Ruth Ann Goodrich from East Flatbush Village. I'm the outreach coordinator. I'm just visiting.
Oh, hi. Thank you for
Hi.
being here.
Thank you.
Sweet. Did I miss anyone? Uh-oh. Did I miss anyone? I am so sorry. Let's see, I'm going up. Yep, Deidre. Miss Sinclair, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yana Sinclair, and I'm the community associate with Community Board 17.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for being here tonight. Very short, brief chairperson report. So as you know, we are deep into, it's the second week in June. We have gotten some graduation outreach in terms of reaching out for certificates. So I know graduations, some of them are not till like going on to the last week of June. So if you need certificates, please reach out and let us know. We will, our cutoff time is going to be next week, either Thursday or Friday. Well, no, I'm out of here. So next week, Wednesday. So please, if you have a graduation of any kind and you want Community Board 17 or the committee to, give out community service awards, or even if it's academic excellence, anything, please let us know. You can reach out to the board office to Miss Sinclair. There's a form that went out. If you don't have the form or you can't get to the form, you can also send me an email. You can send Miss Sinclair an email at the just let us know. I will put the Miss Sinclair, can you drop your email in the chat, please? And also the youth and education one, both of them. Okay. Oh, Well, that deadline has passed. Thank you for sending that. So last month's meeting, we had Allison Liu, who came and give us a presentation, not only at the committee, but at the board also about universal childcare. So apparently the two to K applications are open. I see she sent it, but she did not send me the link. Oh, she did. So if there's anyone who's looking for childcare coming up or what, and now that we're trying to do, universal pre-K and do 2 to K, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. I'm going to make sure that I can. Let me open the whole thing and send it. There's a lot of information in there that I think folks will be interested in. So I'm going to drop this in the chat right now. And you can look through it. This is the 2K admission toolkit. It has some really great information. So if you need it, please pass it along to your colleagues, family, friends. We all know how expensive childcare is. So if this works for folks, please. For those who are board members, please remember that next week is election. Would love you have until Friday to submit a nomination if you're interested in running for any of the 5 positions on the board, which is chairperson, first vice chair, second vice chair, secretary, or treasurer. I am willing to give up that secretary position. So if you guys want to be, be part of that executive team, please, and you're on the board, please sign up for a position, nominate yourself. You're free to do that, to self-nominate. Okay. Let me see. I got some emails today. Okay. So this is from the Parks and Beautification. It says, we are seeking volunteers for the following events at the Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center. The Parks and Beautification Committee, in collaboration with the center, will be hosting the upcoming events. And the events, it's the Father's Day Community Celebration, Saturday, June 13th, which is this Saturday coming up, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The event is free and it's open to the public. The next one is Juneteenth, Freedom Day, the Juneteenth celebration at the Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center also. And that's going to be Saturday, June 20th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So those 2 events, they're asking for volunteers to help assist. Miss Sinclair, did this go out in the newsletter?
Yes, those are in the newsletter, and then they'll be going out again on this Friday.
Okay, great. So for those who don't know, we have a newsletter, a very flourishing and information-filled newsletter. If you want to be able to get the newsletter, please drop your email in the chat, or if you don't want to do that, just send Miss Sinclair an email and ask her to add you to the list. It is really helpful and useful. I am really happy, I have to say, how the newsletter have taken off. And if you have information that you would like in the newsletter, we also do that. Okay. This letter goes out correct me, Miss Sinclair, it goes out every once or twice a month. I know right after the board meeting it goes out. Is there another time that it goes out?
Yes, it goes out once a month after the general board meeting, and then if there are any events that are happening before our next meeting, then it'll go out before that. So sometimes there's two, but definitely monthly.
Okay, great, great, great. There's a health and wellness at Prodigal Park on August the 15th. That's a save the date, and that's being put on by the board. As I said, I'm not going to go through all of this because there's a lot of information that is useful. There's Omni information. I know there's some folks who are still trying to understand the whole Omni card and stuff. But there's also information in here from the various elected officials. So please, please join the newsletter group and get all of this information in there. Okay. Any questions?
Miss Grandison? Yes, George State. I have my hands up, but I don't think
Yes,
you can see
I'm
them.
sorry. Let me just say that I know someone's a way to see when people have hands up. I'm going to try to use that. Go ahead, Mr. Tate.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, for the two events at Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center, if I understand correctly, everyone to go to the one on June 13th, but for June 20th, you have to be a member in order to go in. And Ms. Sinclair, you can correct me in this, but I do believe that they say you have to be a member because it's an indoor event and you need to be able to, you have to have your card in order to go in. This is what was mentioned at the Parks and the Beautification Committee. So I just want people to be aware of that the 20th is supposed to be members only.
Okay, thank you for letting us know that because now I'm reading the fine print that says participants must have an NYC Park Recreation Center membership. Membership is free for youth and young adults 24 and under. Yes. Do you know why that is?
No, I don't understand it. I really, my opinion is should be open to everyone, especially something like Juneteenth. But
Yeah.
I question that, but I don't know where it is.
Okay. I wonder if it's a crowd control matter issue.
Oh, that's possible, but then it should be open to the community. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. But the Father's Day community celebration is free and open to the public.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So two things I'm going to speak about them in old business, so I'm not going to go through them. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything I said or any other information? Okay, here none.
Question, please.
Yes, who's Miss Simon?
Yeah, thank you. Clarifying what was just said. In interest of volunteering, would I have to be a member to volunteer? I mean, a member of the what? A member of the Shirley Chisholm, a member of the board? Please clarify.
Great question. Miss Sinclair, do you know more about the volunteer part? If Miss, and I know this is coming from Miss Burlott.
To my knowledge, I believe it is open. I don't believe that you have to be a board member, or a member of the Shirley Chisholm Center. But I can double check. But I do know they're looking for volunteers, from CB17, but I don't know if it's specified just to like board members.
Okay. So I think she's asking that question because we said the Juneteenth one requires that you be a NYC Park member. So I think it's a great question to find out if you're asking for volunteers, does those volunteers have to be a NYC Park member, or if they're just, or specifically from the one of the committees or a member of the board. So I think that's a great question for Miss Burlott. If you can just reach out to her, Miss Sinclair, and just get clarification around this.
Excuse me, can I share?
Yes, Miss Saunders.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I received a notice from Miss Burlock today. Well, it's Tuesday, I'm sorry, yesterday. We will be there to staff Community Board 17 table and anything else we feel comfortable doing. Below is a list from the center showing where help is needed. Help serving food, help with the games, help kids with arts and craft, help make sure people who are going to vote go to the right place and not wander, help monitor the elevators and the bathrooms, and sharing information application for the recreational center. So that's a
Okay,
list. Yeah.
that's the list of, and she did not mention anything about membership,
No,
especially for the Juneteenth thing.
no.
Okay.
And I
Um,
asked, I asked her if we're going to be given a t-shirt or if we have to wear a uniform to identify ourselves, and she didn't get back to me on that. Yeah.
okay. That is fine. Okay. We'll see what happens there, but we'll try to get more information. And does Miss Sinclair have everyone that's here their email? If she doesn't, sometimes there's information that we drop or it's sent after. Um, in order for you to get that, please, just either send her an email. If you do not want to put it in the chat, just send her an email with your name and your email address, just letting her know you would like the information for the newsletter to be added to the newsletter listserv, or just to get the information that was at the Youth and Education Committee on any given night. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we're doing great on time. So we are going to go into our presentation, and it's around reading scores. And I love this. You heard Justin and introduce themselves. They're going to introduce themselves a little more. They're from the Literacy Academy Collective. And I love the truth about reading. Do you know if your child is reading on grade level? Something that is so important, because sometimes the horror stories I hear, kids, well, I remember years ago it was about kids graduating and couldn't even read at a fourth or fifth grade level. And then I don't know how many folks here are on IG, or people still use Facebook or what, but about a couple months ago, there was a video that went around with these high schoolers, and one of their classmates had this thing for them to read, and it was that some of them could not even pronounce the words in there, and they couldn't even read like what the sentence was saying. And it brought back that rush of memories for me because I remember so clearly. I think this was like in the 90s, and the Daily News had done a piece where it says, kids were being socially promoted, but couldn't read past certain grade levels. And that flashed back to me, and I was like, oh my God, goodness, this is happening again. And what it was a Philly high school, and it went, I will send you guys the video, but I thought it was very interesting. So without going any further, I'm going to ask Justin and his colleague to please, the floor is open to you to do your presentation.
Thank you, everyone. I am going to present tonight. My name is Naomi Pena, as I introduced myself earlier. It's okay that I share, correct? Because I'm going to present. Yeah. Okay. So,
Yes, you can.
share. Hold on. I'm getting a weird thing. Hold on.
Let me know if it's asking you for permissions or anything like that.
Hold on. It's like I'm getting a weird open system settings. Wow. Oh no. Okay, later. Okay, let's see if this works now. Hold on. Window, here it is. Tab. Yep, now I got it. I was doing a whole permissions situation because I don't have WebEx. Everyone sees my screen?
Yes, I could see.
Beautiful. Okay, beautiful. Well, my name is Naomi Pena, and once again, I am deeply grateful for you all to give me time and space for your meeting tonight. I like to start off with my why. I happen to be one of the co-founders of Literacy Academy Collective, and the reason I got in this position is because all four of my kids are dyslexic. My oldest is 26. I have the next one is 20, and I have 16-year-old twins. No, I wasn't 16 and pregnant. I just knock on wood. I got good genes. And about 20 years ago, when my first son started school, he started to have some issues in school, and there was lots of complaints that were happening, which then he was getting in trouble in school, which meant that he was getting in trouble at home. And I vividly remember having a conversation with him at the dinner table, and I said, what is going on? And he literally turned to me and said, Mom, I don't know what it is. It's like my brain is not letting me. And that was his 6-year-old self trying to communicate to me that there was something wrong. So I did what I felt I needed to do. I started to advocate, the way that I could only do, because I've only done this, he was my first kid. And I got an evaluation done, and it just turned out that I got lucky that one time. It's never happened since, where I was told that what my son was presenting was hallmarks of someone who had dyslexia. Now, I had no idea what dyslexia was, what it looked like. So I was just promised, we're going to give you an IEP. He's going to be in this different classroom setting. We're going to give him speech. We're going to give him OT. We're going to give him some sets. We're going to do a little bit of here, a little bit of there, and it'll get better. I had more children, and what I started to see, is that my oldest son's trajectory was not getting better. It was getting significantly worse. And as my other kids started going through the system, I was seeing a pattern of how they were acquiring language, how they were processing language, and how they struggled to read and write. And where it ultimately came all to a peak for me was during COVID, as everybody else. By then, they say parents should get involved. I did get involved. So I became president of my CEC. I was president for 5 of the 8 years I sat on it. And at the same time, I was president of my CEC. I had 4 kids remote learning. And by that time, my oldest had completely bottomed out of high school. And he was getting his diploma. He was getting his GED at a District 79 school, which is like a transfer high school for older kids who are underaccredited. And my then son was in 4th grade. By then had been held back twice because he couldn't read. So technically he was supposed to be a 6th grader. And he's remote learning on a laptop and could not read a single word on the screen and certainly could not type a single word. And all of this was causing stress because, as we all know, there was a mandate that was happening where kids needed to produce work. I'm getting calls of like, why is your kid not on the screen? Why is he not producing this work? And I was openly advocating like, my kid is dyslexic. He cannot do this. He's struggling. And I was just told it'll eventually happen. It'll eventually happen. And it never did. So I had a moment where I needed to decide what mattered. I loved my district public school, but it was not working for my youngest son. And if I was going to allow the system to have its way, I was going to have another repeat of what my oldest son's trajectory was. And I refused to lose another brown boy. So I did the steps that I needed to do to get my son into a private school. So he walked in 5th grade, reading at a 1st grade reading level. So I need to put this into context. He had been held back twice. So he's technically a 7th grader, but in 5th grade, and he was reading at a 1st grade reading level. So for 6 years, my son made 0 progress. And I was told that he was, but I knew he couldn't because he could not do simple things. He could not read a text. He certainly couldn't read a menu. I'm happy to say that I got him into a private school that I had to throw an obscene amount of money to do that, to keep him in that school. But what has happened is he's now in 9th grade, reading at a 7th grade reading level. So he was able to make 5 years worth of gains in a school that, quite frankly, is doing nothing special. They're just using a different approach for these kids that is rooted in science and works. So as a result of my story, along the way, I met 6 other women who have the same identical war stories with their own dyslexic children. So we are 7 women with 11 dyslexic kids, and we decided rather than complain about the system, we were going to change the system. So I lovingly say we advocated, aggravated, and agitated the New York City public school system for 5 years to address this problem, and they did. But I'll get into that later. I'll save it for the end. But the reason I'm here is because one of the caveats that I'm discovering in doing this work now, 6 years later, more than that, almost 8, what I'm finding is that parents do not know that their kids are struggling to read. There's ways to know it. There's ways to find it. And there's certainly things you can do and ask, but the system is not built to tell you the truth. And I can tell you that because I'm not a DOE employee and I know what's going on now that I'm on this side of the space and working with the system and working with families and working with schools. Schools are not telling kids that they cannot read. So how do we find this out? So just for context, New York City public schools under the last administration started, there was this announcement that they were going to do dyslexia screening. Not necessarily the truth. What we were doing is we implemented universal screening, again, from K to 8. Now for grades K to 2, we use something called Acadians. For grades 3 to 8, we use something called iReady. All of these scores live in every single parent's NYXA account, New York City school account. Every parent has an account. The way to get access to this account is problematic and probably by design. every parent has to go to their school's parent coordinator, ask for a form. The form is given by the parent coordinator with a code. They go to the website, they enter the code, and now your child's profile is in your account. One of the problematic pieces of this is that the password resets itself every 4 months, which means if you lock yourself out, now you have to go back to your parent coordinator so they can reset the account so you can start the process all over again. But the reason this is really important is because this portal is quite amazing, actually, and I advocate for everyone to have it if they don't have it. It has the students' grades. It has, if the child has an IEP, it lives in there. It has, their documents. It has transportation. You get busing route information. But under reading and math progress, you're able to see how your child is doing. So if you go into Acadians, which is grades K to 2, and your child is in the red yellow, your child is below benchmark or well below benchmark. What that translates to is your child is either 1 to 3 grades behind. So if your child is a second grader and they're well below benchmark, that means they've done no progress since kindergarten. Now they're supposed to be communicating this to families. Admittedly, my kids are older, they're out of the system. I do not know if this is necessarily happening, but also I don't know what necessarily is being communicated to families. My understanding is that they're not telling families your kids are 2-3 years behind. They're not doing this. And this is part of the reason why I'm taking this presentation on the road. I'm literally going everywhere in Brooklyn and everywhere in the Bronx, sounding the alarm on this because parents need to know. The same goes for iReady, and that's a reminder, grades 3 to 8. If a parent goes into that portal and their child is in the red, in this light pink, or in the yellow, again, they're at least 1 to 3 grades behind. Again, if you're a 4th grader and your child is in the red, that means they've done at least 3 years of zero progress. And all of these things matter because we say from grades K to 2, you learn to read. And after 3rd grade, you need to read in order to learn. And 3rd grade is a testing year. So now if you have no ability to access what's happening in school and you're not producing that work, how on earth are you able to do well on the test? It's not going to happen. So if your child is behind, what should happen? Why did we get here? Unfortunately, as the case was with my children, we were using an approach that we now know to be problematic. We were using something called balanced literacy, and this came into fashion, I want to say, in the early 80s, early 90s, out of Teachers College. And it was using strategies that were actually enforcing a lot of guessing. The biggest corporate that I actually detest in this whole page is this little Skippy frog on the bottom. We were literally telling kids to skip the tricky word, read to the end, go back and try again. So if you're having a hard time understanding a word and you're skipping through these words, you're probably losing the context of what you're reading. So it was reinforcing lots of guessing. It was reinforcing lots of looking at pictures. There was lots of predictive rhyming, lots of predictive patterns. So people were thinking that kids were reading and they actually weren't. They were just guessing really well. So what approaches do help students? I don't know if you've heard of this, but that's why I'm here, because I want to elevate this cause. In the last 50 plus years, there's been an enormous amount of science that's come out of actual brain scans. It's called the science of reading. And what scientists have been the brain is a fascinating organ to begin with, honestly, but they've been able to map how the brain processes language, how it learns to read, how it processes all these things that we need in order to function, quite frankly, in the very literate world that we exist. And out of that science came out these approaches. They often are, there's various ways that you've heard of them, possibly structured literacy, explicit instruction. One that's really famous is Orthe and Gillingham. These were actually two folks that delve a lot into the science, and they developed an approach to reading. And in order to be a proficient reader, you need to have two things happening at the same time. You need to have the blue side of the rope, which is the language comprehension. That's vocabulary, that's background knowledge. So when I say the word bird, you might think of a pigeon, or I might say it's a flamingo, which is not wrong. They're both birds, but they're different. But you also need to have word recognition. That's the red side of the rope. And that's really important because you need to learn how to decode the word. You need to learn how to break down the word that you don't know and figure out how to say it and what it means. So when we're talking about structured literacy, I'd like to give an example of what that looks like. We've always been taught that the word ED sounds like ed, which is 100% true. But in structured literacy, when we're teaching this to kids, we're actually teaching kids that ED actually makes 3 sounds. So it makes the ED, the ed sound like in limited. It actually makes only the D sound like in cornered. And it actually also makes the T sound like in skipped. So what we do in these lessons is when a child knows these rules, we're able to teach them ways and strategies on how to figure out if skipped should be spelled with a T or with an ED. I am fascinated by the brain. I think it's an amazing organ that actually controls our entire body and being. And this is what we know of the science of reading. There's 4 highways, if you will, that need to work in tandem to process language. There's the frontal lobe of the brain, the front side of your brain, that hears the word, in this instance, bird. It hears it. There's the middle side of the brain where it actually teaches you how to break down the word. That's the part that you start building awareness, how to sound out words. There's that temporal side of the brain, which actually, when I say the word bird, you think of a type of bird. And then there's the back of the brain where it actually stores the word. So I wish I want to develop the next slide, the next deck I present, I would like to do like a mini lesson, because I can literally nanosecond present words on the screen. And if you know the word, you can retrieve it instantly. And that's what good proficiency is. This is a true and false. I won't go through it, but at the very least, what I do when I do these things, I like to present this because oftentimes people have misconceptions of what reading is, what dyslexia is, because people who are dyslexic or struggle with reading are quite actually bright. They don't have an intellectual disability. And what we all have discovered through the science of reading is that we all learn how to read the same exact way. There's no different way to learn this. I often like to elevate that the children who work the hardest are the ones that are struggling the most, because they show up every day to a classroom and to a school where they know they cannot do something in front of their peers, in front of their teachers, and they try every day and often fail. So because of that, children tend to show their frustrations in many different ways, right? As adults, you're either an internalizer or you're externalizer. And, in my case, my son has such severe school anxiety, my oldest, at one point, that he was bedwetting. And he was in the 3rd grade. He hated going to school. He was made to feel awful. Kids made fun of him. I had a teacher that was horrendous to my son, that to this day, my son refuses to engage in anything academic because it left him scarred. So I like to elevate this because children are always giving us cues, and as adults, we need to tap into what they're trying to tell us. What is dyslexia? I also want to just, I level this because a lot of people don't know what dyslexia is. It's a wordy definition because it got updated last year, but dyslexia is literally a neurological condition. It's in the brain where those 4 regions of the brain that I showed you earlier are having a hard time connecting to one another. And in order to be a proficient reader, those highways need to be connected. So it's often genetic. And in my case, all four of my kids are dyslexic. My kid's father is severely undiagnosed dyslexic, severely. So I often say, whenever we're talking about reading disabilities and we're dealing with children, I like to center that we should make an assumption that there's an adult in that child's life that also struggles to read. We at LAC fundamentally believe that reading is a civil right. This country has had a very ugly and unfortunate history of limiting who can read, and in certain states what they can read. So we should, at the very least, want everyone to have access to the books that in some states are banned, but also to the ability to be a productive citizen in the United States or beyond. Because even navigating this WebEx, you need to learn, you're reading the menus or even responding to a text message. And it's woven into the fabric of our lives, and we need to center that. But what we do know is that in New York State and across this country, and honestly across the globe, students are not reading proficiently, particularly students who are Black, Hispanic, students with disabilities, that's SWD, and MLLs, multi-language learners. They are struggling the most. So, but what we know is if we were to implement the right instruction through the science of reading, we can get 95% of all readers on level. What we also know, unfortunately, is that there's a deep school to prison pipeline that does exist. In Rikers, they did a study several years ago, and they found that those who were incarcerated 19 to 21 had 40% of them, up to 40% of them, had a reading and writing disability. Nationally, they've done surveys in federal correction facilities. Up over 50% of them also have a reading and writing disability. A fun fact, over 50% of the world's billionaires have dyslexia. So when we're talking about opportunities and pipelines, where you go is really dependent on what you have and what access you have. So how we got here, what we've done. So as I alluded in the beginning, we advocated for 5 years to create a school to support students that have a reading disability or just dyslexia or just struggle to read. So we were able to open the first in-district public school in the country. There's no public school that existed before us. All of the schools are private to support these students. We've opened our first school in South Bronx, and we opened our second school in Central Brooklyn this past year. The goal of Literacy Academy Collective is we are a school support organization, nonprofit. So much like Urban Assembly, Eagle Academy, we advocate in partnership with New York City Public Schools to co-design the schools that we open, and we support the schools that we do open. So we provide teacher development. We do lots of workshops around literacy with families. And we actually bring researchers into our schools so they can see what's going on. We can improve on what we're building, but also provide the school district information, central New York City Public Schools information, because students that need this aren't getting access to it, and we're seeing amazing results in the South Bronx. What makes our schools different is our approach. So we have a daily 90-minute reading and writing block for 100% of our students. And that's rooted, there's 45 minutes of reading, 45 minutes of writing, and that's rooted in the approach that I mentioned before, using, structured literacy approaches that all our teachers have been trained by us over the summer. We also have a similar approach for math because, math, you start getting word problems and you need to understand concepts. So we built in some of that. And we also have a robust social, emotional, and executive functioning component, because oftentimes when children are struggling, there's comorbidities with other things. They might have ADHD, they might have anxiety, and quite frankly, we all have a little something, right? So if you're struggling with your school day one day because you had a rough morning, we are teaching kids to self-advocate for themselves, of saying, raise their hand and say, I need a 2-minute break. Can I take a water? I need a weighted blanket. We have tons of tools that students can tap into and they can use when they need them. So these are just a little bit of sample questions that my goal is to make sure that parents are aware of. There should be asking questions to their classroom teacher about the reading improvement and what expectations have been set and so in the screening process, we do screenings 3 times a year as a system. So that test I mentioned from K to 2 and 3 to 8, that's done 3 times a year, beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of year. So presumably there should be progress being made. If there is no progress being made or it's at a slow rate, all of these things should be asked about directly from the classroom teacher and the principal. But I'm begging anyone that comes across a child, parents need to know what they're reading, how they're reading, and how they're improving, because there's no way we can make improvements on reading scores if parents don't know there's a problem. And unfortunately, the system is not going to tell you that. So I am here, to introduce myself, introduce the work, but also just to let you know that we're in the community. And my job, as you know, I lovingly say I have a job my mom hates. I'm always outside and never home. But my job is to build bridges, build awareness, and partner. So that QR code literally is my contact card. You can scan it, you can save it. My ask is simple. I'm here to support you. So if you want to do a workshop, I do literacy workshops all day long. If you are tabling at an event and need people to table, I happy to show up with Justin, with my colleague. But also just build awareness. So I would love to send you a flyer to our school. I would love if you can share it out to the community, but also just build awareness around what we're trying to do and how we're trying to, quite frankly, change trajectories of children's outcome across the city. And with that, I will stop sharing and I will take questions.
Thank you. That was quite interesting. Very interesting. Before I say anything, any questions, members? No?
What was the
I have one
grade level? Hi, it's Melissa Judd. I wanted to know what was the grade levels?
So for the testing or for the school?
For both.
Both. Okay. So what's actually interesting about the Literacy Academy schools is that we actually start in the 2nd grade. We don't do K in first because there's no way of telling if the child is struggling to read in K in first.
Yeah.
So the goal is that, we hope that the child is getting good instruction at their school, but if the child's not making progress, we hope that they will get referred to us. That hasn't really necessarily materialized as of yet. So fingers crossed that we get there at some point. But we actually are a school that's, this year at Central Brooklyn, we have grades 2 and 3. Next year we'll have 4th, and we'll continue to grow to the 8th grade. For the assessments that happen 3 times a year, K to 2 is called Acadians, and I'll forward you this presentation if you don't have it again. Happy to do that. And then grades 3 to 8, they use something called iReady.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Hi, Member Kamara. Where's the location of the Central Brooklyn again?
We are located at 188 Rochester Avenue between Prospect and Park.
Are you co-locating with a school or you have your own building?
Yeah, we are co-located with a charter school, and there's another school in the building that I believe is phasing out. So
Okay.
once they're phasing out, we would be the prevailing school. So it'll just be 2 schools after next year.
Do you take any of the kids from those schools into your program? that you should co-locate with your building?
Absolutely. So, I actually got a call the other day from a family with two kids from the charter school. Um, the charter school did not refer them to us, but they found us, and so they're interested because their children are not making progress. So as long as the family's interested, and so part of the application process is that we do a little mini screening of the child just to confirm that they are struggling to read, because if your child can read at level, they don't need our school. They're going to be bored. So we just confirm that yes, your child is struggling to read, and then we enroll them. So so just so you know where things are right now for this, offers, the application has been closed, but offers are going out next week. And after that, starting next week, parents can actually add themselves to the wait list. And I tell families very transparently, the wait list moves, because a lot of people say they're interested, and then when it's time to give them an offer, they don't take it for whatever reason, and then we give them a date, and by that date we start calling off the wait list. We also have busing for our school, so if you live within 5 miles of our school, we can assign you a bus stop, and if you have an IEP, we can add door-to-door busing.
Okay.
So
Anyone
I'm sorry, it's Melissa Judd again. Is the requirement to have an IEP to be enrolled in
No,
your school?
absolutely
Okay,
not. You just need to be a child that's struggling to read. That's
got
it.
it. Okay, thank you.
It was purposely designed that way because we do not want to create barriers for families to get to
Right,
us.
right.
Anyone else? No? Okay.
Sorry,
Oh,
it's Melissa Judd again. I have another
yeah, go
question.
ahead.
With regards to the literacy component, are you open to speaking to families who may not know their child is struggling? Like a lot of the community that we serve, I have a not-for-profit in Flatbush, or the Midwood Flatbush area, and a lot of times the parents are from a different country, right? So they don't really know the educational components or the educational practices that are necessary. And if the school doesn't say, hey, your child is struggling, they really don't know. So are you open to doing workshops that can explain to parents like what to look
Absolutely.
for when children
Absolutely.
are struggling with reading?
Absolutely. That's why I'm here. And that's why if you need me to put my QR code for my card, I'm happy to put it up again. I can also email it to you in part of my presentation. That is the work that I do. So if there's an organization here that you want me to come and do a presentation, I'm happy to do that, because the more awareness we'll build into this, the more we empower families to advocate for themselves. So absolutely.
Right. And I think that's part of the problem. A lot of the families don't know how to advocate for their children. And with that being said, there's oh, your child needs an IEP. That's the first thing they run to when, a child is struggling with reading, when they just probably haven't really gotten the foundation that they needed to
100%.
start the reading
And
components.
and I just also want to be transparent, because I can be, right? I don't work for DOE, so I can say what the truth is. Giving your kid an IEP is not going to support the child what they need. What they need is actually supposed to be given to everyone in the classroom. So when
Right.
you're pulling out kids to give a little bit of speech 30 minutes a day, a couple of days a week, or a little bit of occupational therapy a couple of times a week, or a little bit of sets, or whatever else you want to give them, you're actually pulling that kid out from instruction.
Right.
So
And
now
I
they're
mean, not only DOE, the charter schools struggle with this in this area too. So
right. So they're pulling out
combination
kids
of.
from instruction
Right.
that only those providers are doing, and the teachers are not implementing with everyone else. So it's like a bunch of people are not talking to each other, telling these kids to do these things independently. And if that child brings those skills to the classroom, that teacher is not going to let them do it that way. They want them to do it the other way. So it's actually contradictory to one another, and it's not helping at all. I deal with a lot of families who get held over repeatedly, And I'm like, why are we holding over this child? I had one kid that was actually going to get held back for the third time in the same grade. And I was like, how is this possible? Like, unless you're doing something radically different, keeping that child in the same classroom again and again and again and not changing a single approach is not going to help that child flourish.
I agree. But I sent you my contact information as well, so I'll definitely will be in touch
Beautiful.
with you.
Beautiful.
Appreciate
Good.
you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
I have something Miss Judd said that made me think in terms when she said that there are some kids in, because they come from another country. So I what I don't want us to confuse the ability to read or know how to read with those kids who are just struggling with the language barrier and looking for, ESL, because that kid, might be from another country speaking French or Spanish or whatever and can fluently read in their language, but it's a language barrier. So I wonder if sometimes that is an issue within the school that's not clearly pointed out, that it is not that a child can't read, it's the language barrier that's affecting them.
Yeah.
And how does that work then? How are you able to distinguish and differentiate?
Well, we actually, to be honest with you, if a child, let's say a child is not a native English speaker, right, and is in our school because they are struggling with English, right?
Right.
We are able to determine what the issue is based on the rate of improvement. So what we discovered is when we're doing this approach, because our school is not we're not a dual language, we're English school, but because we are teaching structured literacy and we're basically breaking down the English language into the obnoxious way that we spell and read, because quite frankly, English is not phonetic. Why does PH make the F sound? I do not know why. And that's not found in Spanish. It's not found in any other language but in English. So we actually teach those skills for those non-English speaking kids. And actually, when it's just because they need to learn the language, they pick it up immediately. Like they are high flyers. So there is a natural exit point for it. So for instance, you show up in second grade, you speak French, and we start teaching you the crazy coded way to speak English and read English and write English. And by fifth grade, you have excelled and you're reading at grade level. We're expecting that there's going to be a subset of kids that are just going to do that. And we're actually seeing that in the South Bronx. We have our first graduating class, the fifth graders, and there's a subset of those kids that are doing amazing. They're at grade level already. So they don't need to be at our school for middle school. They're actually going to go to a district middle school to thrive over there. So there's a natural exit point here. But if those children actually had a reading disability, we wouldn't see them fly that immediately.
Okay,
So
right.
we call something called dyslexia, like dyslexia, dyslexia. So like if a child is just getting bad instruction or they're not native English speakers and they're just, they just needed to learn the code, they will be our high flyers and they will be presumably ready by middle school to go somewhere else. But the rest of the kids that tend to take a little bit longer, they struggle a little bit more, those are the kids that need our school. And we're able to see that. And we have everyone in our school, quite frankly.
Oh, okay.
Just
Okay,
a
that
point
is
of just a point of
interesting.
contact again, it's Melissa. Reference. I was implying the parenting component, not the children. Like having the parents have a better understanding of what to ask the schools when it
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
to their child reading.
Absolutely.
I wasn't really speaking about the children. I was speaking about how parents from different countries, they don't really understand like what to do when their
Yeah.
child is struggling and how
Yeah.
to ask questions to the school. So that's the component I was talking about.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't really.
no, that's what I understood too. Because when you come from a different country, you're kind of embedded on not to question authority. You believe that people
Yeah.
have your best interests. So there's this level of like, my mom would never ask a question of any of my teachers because she was under the assumption that those teachers knew best. So like whenever I was like coming for one of my kids' teachers, she was like, Naomi, how are you like questioning them? I'm like, lady, like you don't know what I'm going through. So there's a level of like, people are just scared to question authority because that's just the way it is in their country. You don't do that. You follow the
Right.
rules and keep your head
Yeah.
down.
Right.
So there is that unpacking of that stuff that sometimes I have found that whenever I tell my story, it resonates with them of like, oh, she gets it. She's a mom that had to do this thing and she had to figure it out. And lucky for them, I figured it out so I can help them figure it out.
Right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Melissa, I get where you were coming from too, but when you said the barrier, with the different countries and speaking, I was like, it kind of hit into me. That's why I asked the question, not based on what
Oh, okay.
you were putting in. It
Okay.
just hit me then. I was like, but wait a minute, how do we differentiate between ELL and a student who's really struggling? And I
Yeah.
see CK. You said you came in late, so apologies, but I'm wondering about how this interacts with ELL, and that's what we were talking about. We were just having that discussion around ELL and whether or not that kid may be dyslexic or just struggling to be able to read. Um, this is really interested in, and the fact that you have two schools, one in the South Bronx and one right here, just a mile or two, maybe 2 miles, if that much, a 10-minute drive over. Because and that's all you focus on. Yes.
Yes. So, we're a school like every other. We have
Right.
science, math, and like we do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what we all know is that you need to read in those subjects too, even
Exactly.
is
Right.
reading.
'Cause
So
everything is reading, right?
everything is reading. So our
Everything is
focus,
reading.
so while there's a reading and writing block, when you're reading a math problem and you're struggling to decode a word, we have the benefit of having teachers who know the instruction are able to decode that word with the student, because I'm sure other kids are having the same thing. So yeah, it's a school like every other. It's just our focal point is reading and writing, which weaves into everything else in the academics.
Yeah. Oh, CK said, I meant if this works in other languages.
Actually, that's a good question, CK. The reading program that we actually use for our intervention block is called PAF. It's an acronym for, I think, a horrible title. It's called Preventing Academic Failure. It sounds so like dun dun dun. But they actually developed a Spanish version called Aprendiendo Leyendo, and it literally came because another woman was like, if PAF works so great in English, why don't we make it in Spanish? And PAF invested in it, and it's actually on the list for DOE as well. So schools, if you're a bilingual school and you teach Spanish, you can use their program for foundational skills as well.
Nice.
But that's the only two languages that program comes in at the moment.
At the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple of opportunities, because I feel like this information is something to present to the board itself. And
I love that.
I would, and I'll have to put this in my calendar, that maybe we connect again later down in the summer and we have you present at the September board meeting, especially since, school will be have started by then. And, for those online or who in the audience, this may perk something up for them and realize, well, hey, maybe I need to learn more about this and to understand, why my child might be having a difficult time or what. And the thing I would love parents to do, because you were proactive, you saw your kids struggling, and you didn't wait for a teacher to assist you and to tell you and to do. You took the reins and you just went ahead. And we know that not all parents are going to be proactive like that, because of course, as you just said, those who are coming from different countries think that teachers know best, and they rely on the system to tell them how the kids are doing.
Right.
And I think we all want to be proactive parents. We want to be the ones, if we're seeing it, because our kids live with us. They're there most of the time. We know our kids, to say, something's wrong. Let me speak to you. Okay, you're not seeing it. Really take that time to focus, right? And to utilize all those different applications that DOE has that provides all that information around their kids. Just keep up on it. So,
And
right.
I'm actually in the process of developing like a booklet, because I feel
Mm,
like I have all this stuff in here and I
yes.
need to put it into something I can give parents. So beyond my presentation, that's actually something. So maybe by September when I come and present, I will have like
We'll have
we'll
somebody.
have some ready to give, because I need to like pack this in a digestible way for families, so it's not like so overwhelming. Like the way I present to you all is very different the way I present to parents, because I don't
Yeah.
want to be overly wordy. Like I needs to be digestible, simple to understand. And that's what I'm actually developing with Justin, who's amazing, and we have a designer who's gonna like create what I have up here to put it into a booklet, so that way families have it and they can like process everything that I'm saying with a page of questions and what to do and how things work, so that way they have it as a resource. It's like as a
Yeah.
resource guide, if you will.
That would be great. The other thing is that we have an event coming up next month, July 23rd, called Youth Happening. We would love for you to reach out if you can table at that event. They're usually, it's a lot of young people there, but it's a lot of daycares that are there also, and
Great,
the directors and stuff. And I think catching this in the early ages is really important,
great.
before that child, hits the streets and it's like, oh, they're out of school, they're on their own. So I'm going to send you the flyer around that as soon as I get off. Miss Sinclair, please remind me to send Miss Pena some information on Youth Happening. I really would love for you to come and table there. And then the third thing is, I think it would be really great, sometime when the board resumes next year, that if we can get a parent literacy workshop together and get all the schools, get our schools involved, especially the elementary schools.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking about, those three things right now. But thank you so much. This was really informative. And I think we have to do more
Yeah.
when it comes to our kids. There's nothing in this world you can do without knowing how to read. When
100%.
people say reading is fundamental, it is so fundamental to
It
your life.
absolutely. I mean, listen, if you cannot navigate your phone, like you're dead. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
exist. How do you navigate that? It's like a mini computer. So listen, I'm thrilled that you are supportive of this. Like I said, I think Justin's still here. Justin will send you the presentation and a flyer for CBLA. So if you all have a newsletter and you're sending it out, we'll love if you can share that
Yeah.
as well. And again, like I'm happy to in any event that you guys are having. LAC will present and be present.
Awesome. So I did get the presentation from you guys. I was looking it over,
Okay.
so I can share it with Miss Sinclair to share to the group. But if you can send the flyer,
Yeah, I will.
so we can
I'll
put
do
in the
that right now.
newsletter. Okay.
Okay.
Yep,
That.
I'll send it over.
All right. Thank you, Justin.
So thank you so much. I appreciate. Let's not be strangers, Naomi.
Absolutely not. I
I'm
listen. Like I
going.
said, I have the job my mom hates. I'm everywhere but home, so I'm happy to continue to do that.
Okay. So I'll send you the flyer. I'm still in the process of trying to get stuff together, but I'll definitely send it to you. Um, Love to have you there. Are there any other questions from anyone?
It's Melissa again. I have another question. So because your school only has second and third grade, right? Like, what do you recommend, or what would your recommendation be for students that are in higher grades than what your school actually services?
So right now, because we're a new school, this was our first year. We only opened with second and third. So next year we'll have fourth. So we'll add a grade every year after that until we hit eighth. So next year for 26, 27, we'll have second, third, and fourth. The year after that, we'll have fifth, and then we'll have sixth, and then we'll have seventh. So it'll grow.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, the need for our school is always going to be more than what we can provide. There's just it is, even one of our models is that we're capped at 18 kids per classroom, which is great, small class size, but it also means small class size. And we don't have 30, 35 kids per classroom purposely, because we want kids to be able to learn and be able to ask questions, and teachers not to keep moving along. So what I do is this is also the work that I do beyond just making presentations. People come to LAC, parents come to LAC all the time, like confused, asking questions. What do I do? How do I navigate this? And I help with that. So if there's a parent that is like doesn't know how to file for an IEP, or thinks like there's something else going on, I literally get on every single family that applies to our school. I literally have a conversation with every single one. It's time consuming. It's hundreds of people, but I literally have a conversation with every single one, so they understand like what are you seeing. And I help triage some of this stuff, because sometimes parents think it's reading and it's something else. Like this one parent was desperate to get to our school. She was like, he's dyslexic. And I'm like, how do you know that? Well, it's reading. I was like, okay. But in order to say something like that, you need to have an evaluation. Do you have an evaluation? No, I do not. Okay, so how can we get you an evaluation? So I started giving her the roadmap. Go to the pediatrician, say they're seeing these things, ask for an ask to get a referral for a neuropsychological, like step by step, so they now know. Because sometimes as parents we're desperate, there's something wrong, we don't know what it is. And this parent was literally just throwing tons of stuff in the air and seeing what landed. And I was like, you're going insane trying to find a solution to a problem that you don't know if you have. So I'm happy to do that. Unfortunately, we don't have more schools. The goal is to open up more schools. But that is part of the work that I do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Justin and Naomi. Great having you here, and we will connect to discuss further how we can partner around some of this stuff once the school year begins. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. It's 8:58, and I just want to reiterate Youth Happening, July 23rd, Prattigate Park. I did not get any emails of anyone volunteering. There's still time. We need folks to help us set up the morning off. Usually we get there pretty early, about 8 o'clock. We start at 10, but we need folks to help us set up. We need donations. We need folks to help us also clean up. It's from 10 to 3 or 4 p.m. So wherever, some of the things I do need is maybe some books. And yes, Kamara, Brooklyn Bodega is still on my list. But what we do is we take these books, we put them on the table, and a lot of the kids take the books and, we give them to freely go to read, to take home, to utilize them. So we do that. We're going to have arts and crafts, also a table with arts and crafts. I would love if there's someone available to come to manage that table, someone to help give out the snacks, someone to help serve the lunch, um, you know, possibly, well, we used to do tickets. We don't really do them anymore because I don't think it makes sense. But, to sign people in that morning. And usually we'll see the daycares get in there about 10:30. Some daycares come and set up their tents. Yes, they come with tents and set them up, and they have the kids there. We want this year to do some sports, activities and stuff. So if someone can coordinate that. So all these things we need. So please let me know if you're available, what you'd be willing to do. You can email me, you can text me, whichever. I will accept your help in any form or fashion. Any questions?
Is the registration, hi, it's Melissa again. Is the registration still open for organizations to, sign up or?
Yes, we haven't even sent it out as yet. So we're gonna send it out. I'm working on it. It should be out there tomorrow. So Miss Sinclair will send it to all of you. So we're gonna have the organizations who are signing up to table, and then we'll have another sign up which is separate for daycares. If you have a kid and you're just want some place to come that day, you are free to come. You don't necessarily have to sign up, but we do require that the daycares who are bringing groups, or any organization, if you're bringing groups, to please sign up so that we can order the appropriate amount of lunches that's needed. Okay. Any questions before we go? Nick's not doing well, folks.
Sorry, it's Melissa again.
Yeah.
Have you started a committee on this already? Like to help you?
Well, I asked for folks to, and no one has. So I can't have a committee without people.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the problem. Why I keep saying it all the time. We want people. If I have volunteers, I can create a committee to do it. But so far, have not gotten anything. So I'm putting it out there again. So please let me know, or let Miss Sinclair know, okay? If I can do same day, that is fine. I do understand folks have commitments, but I'm saying if there's anyone that you can do anything that day, if you're off, or, you want to send someone to help volunteer, please. We're always willing to accept. So it is now 9:03. Is there any new business anyone wants to bring to the committee? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
You have to give us a little, I'm sorry, give your name. And for our new folks, it's usually, you give your name and say, you would say Fred Yamplowski, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Great. Freddie and Polsky, I motion the meeting.
Okay, to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Nobody wants to go home?
Ryan
Nobody
One.
wants to.
Hello. Good evening, Ryan Warren. I second the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Ryan. So,
Yes.
folks, just so you know, this is our last meeting for the year for July and August. The board does not meet during those 2 months for meeting wise, but we do meet for events and different activities. So, thank you. Have a safe, beautiful, enjoyable summer. Travel as much. Come back and give me some stories and enjoy yourself with your summer vacation. With that, thank you and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay,
Sharon.
good night.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.